Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. versus Canelo Alvarez. I want to see this fight. Boxing fans deserve to see this fight. As far as I'm concerned, man, this fight can really be an amazing trilogy. It really can be. And think of the buzz and the attention that this kind of fight would bring, man. This would be huge. Huge. And honestly, in my opinion, we need to start having mega fights in the sport of boxing. We need other fighters to really start taking the stage, because these are the guys that we're going to have once a lot of the older guys retire from the sport of boxing. So why not make a great mega fight like this? These guys are around the same weight. And I mean, I just think it would be huge, man. Imagine this fight right here on Cinco de Mayo. Just think about that for a second, man. You know? And regardless about how you feel about either one of these two guys, Canelo or Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., you're watching this fight. If you are a boxing fan, you're watching this fight. And like I said, I believe it's one of the great fights that should get made. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, it's about the fights. And I think that in this era right now, this is the era of where it's about the fighters. Okay? That's what it's about this era. It's not about the fights anymore. And the problem with that is, how can you remember a fighter without remembering the great fights that they participated in, man? And that's what I think people are kind of losing sight of. They're losing sight of that. I mean, how would you remember Ali if it wasn't for his fights? What would he be remembered for? These are just all things we just really need to think about. I mean, even a guy like Arturo Gatti. I mean, is Arturo Gatti remembered because he was this great skills fighter? You know, why would a fighter like that even be still mentioned to today? Why are fans still talking about him? Because of the fights. All right? Let's not lose the fact that this is about entertainment. Okay? And it's not always about skill. It's about the skill level and comparison of the two guys in the ring. Okay? And it's all about just getting the right mix in there for a huge mega fight. So let's go ahead and talk about this fight a little bit. What are some possibilities that could happen in this fight? You got Chavez Jr., man. A come forward pressure fighter. That's it. That's what he does. He takes a lot of punishment in the ring, but he's relentless. He comes forward and he's strong. He's strong. You know, he's got heavy hands, at least for the division that he fights in anyway. And he has the ability to take a good punch because he's usually fighting guys a lot smaller than him. But here's the deal. Canelo Alvarez isn't as small as some of the other guys who Sergio has fought in the past, you know? And I think Canelo could definitely beef up for this fight if it was to happen at 160. You know, let's talk about what Canelo Alvarez brings to the table. Um, he brings heavy hands as well. He's also a guy who kind of likes to come forward, um, but not to the same degree as Chavez. You know, it's like he's coming forward, but he's doing it in a much more educated way than Chavez Jr. does it. You know, and I don't think anyone's really going to debate that Canelo has way more boxing ability than Chavez Jr. does. But the point is that this fight can go different ways. I mean, I'm sure there's people on both sides who think one fighter could just easily wipe out the other, but with the characteristics that both of these guys have, I could see it going either way. I really can. That's why I say it could easily be a trilogy. Um, You got Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who, like I said, he likes the pressure. And we haven't seen Canelo Alvarez under pressure. He's always kind of been the hunter in his fights. I mean, the most pressure he was under was when he fought Floyd Mayweather. But he's usually the hunter, Canelo is. And now he would have someone who would be hunting him. So the question would be, okay, well, how is Canelo going to fight off of the back foot? How is he going to handle that smothering like pressure? Uh, who knows? We wouldn't know until we saw the fight. On the other hand, you got Canelo Alvarez, who just has that boxing ability to where he's going to be able to outbox Chavez. Um, and he just has a lot of different ways he could beat Chavez, to be honest. And when you factor in the fact that Chavez Jr. has such poor defense, I mean, he's going to be eating a lot of hard rights and lefts and a lot of good body work from Canelo Alvarez. And that's an easy way to hit the canvas, man. You can't take too many punches from this guy. So like I said, man, I really feel like this is an epic fight when you really look at it. Because like I said, you could build a case for both of these guys. I mean, if they fought 3 times, I easily think Canelo would probably win twice. And there's a possible chance that maybe Chavez could win the last one of those fights. But at the end of the day, it's boxing. You never really know. All you can do is speculate until we actually see the fights. So speculating over fights is whatever, but you don't know until 2 guys get in the ring and something happens. Fight between Lucas Matthysse and Danny Garcia. Lucas Matthysse didn't go into that fight thinking he was going to have a giant knot over his eye. And these kind of things happen in the sport. So like I said, you can never 100% predict a fight. You just can't. But yeah, man, I really think that these 2 young guys should really make this happen, man. Let's look at why it might not happen. Okay? The darker side of boxing. Well, we got 2 different promoters. We got Chavez Jr., who's with Top Rank, and we got Canelo Alvarez, who's with Golden Boy. So there's one reason why this fight potentially might not happen. But a reason that it might actually happen is that the truth of the matter is both of these guys don't have a whole lot of places to go. Chavez Jr.'s other options at this point are maybe a Peter Quillin, a Sergio Martinez, or Gennady Golovkin. All 3 guys who could potentially beat him. And in all 3 of those fights, he's not going to make nearly as much money, not even close as the amount of money he would make in this fight. So that's got to be factored in. What about Canelo? I mean, Canelo really doesn't have a whole lot of places he can go. Obviously, there's potentially people talking about a Cotto fight, but Cotto is also Top Rank. So, I mean, heck, maybe if Canelo can land that fight against Miguel Cotto, that'll give us an indicator that this fight is possible. But other than that, I mean, what is Canelo going to do? Does he go back to blowing up welterweights and fighting them? I mean, this is about the big fights. And I'm hopeful that after Canelo has taken that loss against Mayweather, now they're going to go into the direction where these guys understand, hey, we don't got to worry about that 0 anymore. It's about making big fights, putting on a big show for the fans, and getting paid for it, man. I think one of the problems that's happened with this era in boxing is this era has become what I'm going to call the undefeated era. It's the era where everybody thinks they have to finish undefeated. Nobody wants to lose. And nobody ever wants to lose. I understand that. It makes sense. Who wants to lose? But sometimes you could win, and are you really winning? I mean, if you fight a guy like Jose Zito Lopez, are you really winning anything? Are you winning a lot of money? Are you winning credibility? No, you're not winning anything. But you want to get popularity, fight in these kind of fights, man. Fight in the fights that people are going to always talk about. You have to participate in some legendary fights, man. And there's no loser in that kind of fight. When you get in there and you have one of these legendary, huge Joe Frazier Ali's, Mickey Ward versus Arturo Gatti, people will always talk about that, man. And there's no loser in that fight because whoever loses, the fans are going to want to see them just as much as they want to see the winner. It's about earning respect, man. I feel like both of these guys still have a lot of that to do. But in my opinion, I really want to see this fight, man. I really do. I think it's to be an amazing fight. And yeah, if I had to pick somebody, I'd have to go with Canelo Alvarez. I just think he has more ability, um, just more boxing ability, more IQ than Chavez Jr. So that's who I would go with. But what I want to know from you is who would you pick in this fight? So I want to have a poll. Leave feedback. Let me know who you would pick. Um, and also, who do you think is the more popular fighter out of these two fighters? Because Chavez Jr. recently said that he feels like he's the more popular fighter, and I disagree. I think it's probably Canelo, especially after that Mayweather fight, man. He's huge now. So you guys let me know who y'all think. Who's the more popular fighter? Who would win in this fight? And do you want to see this fight happen, man? I just really hope that these boxers can really start getting back to just focusing on the fights, man. Not about your record, not about just padding your record, but just simply focusing on the fights. Thanks for watching. Peace.